I'm Peege, and it's great to be here and talk about this. There's just a huge need for people to know what's really going on and even how to reverse it with Alzheimer's disease. I'm going to pass my cards around just so you have my contact info, especially email, because if you have any questions, just let me know. And I'm also recording this, so if you want to pass it on to somebody else, I can make a YouTube out of it, and then I can send you the link so you can pass it on to other people. And Charlie's going to be advancing the slides for me, so thanks for that. I'm Peege. I founded the X Gyms, and it's all started back in the 80s when I was in college getting my degree in exercise science. And I wanted to invent a better way to exercise that took less time and was a lot safer. So I've studied go ahead, Charlie. So I wanted to come up with a system that was safer than traditional training, because when people are doing the sets and reps in Gold's Gym or CrossFit, they're getting very ballistic motions with heavy weights, and they get injured often. So I wanted to solve that problem. Charlie, thank you. And I also wanted to make something time efficient, because I was working at 2 hours a day, and I knew that I wouldn't have time for that for the rest of my life. So I needed to come up with something that took less time next time. And also, back in the 80s, bodybuilding was cool, but it was starting to fall out of favor. And people just wanted to be toned instead of huge. So I wanted to come up with a system that would tone people up instead of bulk them up. And traditional training is really good at bulking people up. That was what it was invented for back in 1892. But it's not appropriate for most people nowadays because they just want to get toned instead of bigger. Next one. So I started studying the research, and that's what my degree in exercise science taught me how to do, is to read research, to discover new things, to look it up, to find them, and to find which studies were actually valid. Go ahead. And so I invented the X Gym methods, and I used my personal training clients as guinea pigs, and they thought that was fun to try new stuff. And it just kept taking less time, it kept getting safer, it kept getting more effective, so my clientele grew, and then I had to scale myself by opening up the X Gyms. Go ahead. I've also written a book, Cracking Your Calorie Code, that's on Amazon, and I've created a workout DVD. Go ahead. But what I'm here today to talk about is dementia. And all forms of dementia can be stopped or even reversed with this program that I've discovered over the years. But Mom was diagnosed in the year 2000 with early onset Alzheimer's. She was in her 60s. And so I was already a researcher with exercise and nutrition science. And I was also really interested in brain science. I actually started out as a psychology major at SPU because I was so interested in that. And I thought I wanted to be a counselor until I discovered that as a counselor, I would have to sit and listen to people's problems all day. And so I figured, that might not be so fun. And so I switched to exercise science. But I've always had that passion about the brain and helping people, and I do enjoy counseling people and talking to people. So I've combined the two. And so when I dove into the research in brain science in the year 2000 to try to help Mom, it was fascinating stuff that I was learning. Back then, the research wasn't current enough to really discover things and ways to help Mom. And so she passed in 2005, but I learned a lot. And the research was changing so fast that I stayed in it because I wanted to find out what new things they were coming out with, because they were every year. And I knew that they were going to come out with discoveries that could help people. And I wanted to help other people's moms and dads and family members. And so I've stayed in it for the last 18 years, and I've learned a ton. And it's really exciting to be able to tell people the message and to help people. Go ahead. So back in 2009, we discovered that Alzheimer's disease can be slowed not just symptoms treated with drugs, but slowed with lifestyle changes. Go ahead. In the year 2011, we found that in the early stages, Alzheimer's could be stopped. Okay. 2015, we discovered that it can be reversed in the earlier mid stages. Go ahead. And now we know that Alzheimer's can be reversed in any stage. And again, this is the same for other forms of dementia too, even age-related, normal age-related dementia. Go ahead. So I came up with 5 ways to stop, prevent, even reverse dementia. So this really applies to everybody. Young people, middle-aged, old people, people that don't want to get it, people that think they might be getting it. Go ahead. So we're going to go through some of these one by one. And the first one is getting oxygen to the brain. So I can go into the whole plaques and tangles thing and amyloid plaques and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't matter. So if you're doing these things, you're going to take care of all that stuff. And it's just healthy living, basically. So oxygen to the brain, scientists have found that number 1. They used to think that was number 2, that exercise and activity was number 2, and nutrition was number 1, but they reversed them, they flipped them. Oxygen's number 1 now. Being active. It doesn't mean you gotta go to the X gym and do the high intensity, say, workouts at the X gym, but it does mean you gotta get out and do stuff and move and be active to the point where you get out of breath and your heart rate gets up because now you're pumping oxygen to the brain and all your other tissues. Oxygen is the key. Go ahead. So it's important to also understand in the case of Alzheimer's, any dementia, but especially Alzheimer's, that people who are in the later stages are extremely resistant to Alzheimer's, or to exercise. Most people who have Alzheimer's are also kind of in a denial stage. They don't want to admit that they have Alzheimer's, which is one of the indicators that can give a hint that they have Alzheimer's and not other kinds of dementia. Because when people have the normal age-related dementia, I always use air quotes because dementia isn't normal. We humans shouldn't ever get dementia. So there's other reasons for that. But the age-related is more common than the Alzheimer's form. So when people get the age-related dementia, they'll joke about it. They'll say, oh, I'm losing my mind, oh, my memory, oh, I'm getting dementia. But when people get Alzheimer's, most of them are really defensive about it and they're in denial. They don't even want to hear the word, and you tell them the word and they get mad. So that's an indicator that it could be Alzheimer's because that part of the brain is affected where they have that defensiveness. So they're also extremely resistant because the thing that's causing Alzheimer's, sedentary lifestyle, one of the things, they're kind of addicted to that and they're hooked to that. And it's really interesting to see the kinds of things that we're going to see here that can contribute to Alzheimer's. They want to stick with those things, and their brain kind of almost craves those things. They don't want to go the other way. Go ahead. And so it's important to make it fun for them. And so it doesn't feel like exercise. I'm not being forced to work out or forced to do this. And to present it to them in a way where they want to do it, or at least they're not resistant to it. And so grandkids, pets, taking it out for a walk, running around, or running around the playground with the grandkids, doing something they've enjoyed from the past. Good. And incorporating music. Music is very powerful with all forms of dementia, and especially things they remember from the past. My mom used to play piano, and she was good at it, and she loved hymns. I was raised Baptist, and so she liked those old school hymns, and she was at Covenant Shores Retirement Community in the memory care unit, and she'd every once in a while she'd get down and play piano, and then she'd be just a different person when this music would happen. So incorporating this music with exercise is really helpful too. Go ahead. And nutrition, of course, is huge. And it's a close second. They're 1 and 2 are so important. If somebody could just focus on those 2 things, that's more than half the battle. And that's huge improvement, just with those 2 things. But with the nutrition, greens, it's just everything your mom told you to do. Eat lots of vegetables, drink a lot of good water, and eat the good fats. So you're sticking with things like wild animals, grass-fed beef. If you do red meat, you don't have to, of course. But the wild stuff has a lot of omega-3s, almost as much as fish. But it's the farm stuff and the cattle factories that is actually toxic and inflammatory, and it has an opposite effect. It contributes to making AD worse and other health problems. Omega-3s, saturated fats are good. We've been told to stay away from them, but they're actually good for us if it comes from the right source. Things like coconut oil, which is more saturated fat than butter, by the way, but it's a really healthy fat. MCTs, medium chain triglycerides, which coconut oil also has. It's 2/3 MCTs. It's a certain kind of fat that's really good for the brain. And fruit fats, like avocado, olive oil. And then, of course, really high fibers, probiotics, not necessarily meaning taking probiotic pills, but getting probiotics from things like fermented foods, for instance, kimchi, sauerkraut, things like that. Making sure you're getting enough vitamin D. The sun is a healthy thing, unless you're getting burned. So it's encouraged to get out so your skin can produce that vitamin D. In this latitude, it's hard for us to get enough vitamin D about half the year. Winter, some fall, and some spring. Summer, we're getting plenty. All it takes is 15 minutes in short sleeves to get a full day's dose of vitamin C, or vitamin D. So that's really important, but also taking a good quality supplement would be good too. And then it's important to stay completely away from sugars, especially people who have been diagnosed with dementia. And vegetable oils, which are highly inflammatory, and other inflammatory foods. Good fat is the king. Sugar and processed foods are really the devil. That is so important to remember that. Go ahead. And alcohol is also inflammatory. Not one drink a day, but more than a drink a day. Go ahead. And so it's important. All this stuff is so important, especially these first two topics. And to get this to memory care. Because doctors don't necessarily know this, and most aren't telling their patients this. They're treating their patients with drugs. They're treating the symptoms, and it might temporarily help the symptoms, but it's not making them better. This is making people better. Go ahead. This is not a drink. So a lot of people think this is a serving. This is not a serving. Go ahead. This is a serving. So one beer or liquor, wine, that's a serving. So one of those a day is fine. Not a problem. It's more than that. It can be very inflammatory and have very high negative effects on the brain. Go ahead. Sleep is also huge. When you're sleeping, your brain is detoxed. And when you're in certain stages of sleep, your brain goes in and it clears out those plaques and tangles, it clears out all the bad stuff, it takes out the toxins. That's why sleep is so huge and so important. And these points help people get quality sleep and enough of it. There's 5% of the population that don't need much sleep. They can get by on 4 to 6 hours. The rest of us need more than that, 7 to 9. And so that's what I tell people to get. Just stick with that, because that's the vast majority of the population. And make that a huge priority. Very important to get that, to start to reverse the process. Sleep is huge. So the way to get good sleep is a dark room, like blackout curtains. So when the sun comes up, especially this time of year, you've got really long days, which is really fun, it's really great, except for sleep. So to keep it dark, to keep it cool in the room, under 70 degrees, between 65 and 70 is perfect. So this time of year, again, it can be tough, unless you have an AC. And I have one in my bedroom, just for this reason. And I prime the room, a few hours before I go to bed, so I know it's going to be the right temperature. And quiet is good, or white noise. So if you live in a really loud area, turn on white noise. My AC is white noise, so there's 2 birds with 1 stone right there. No screens, meaning phones, tablets, computers, at least an hour before bed. There's a certain kind of light that you're getting from that. and it's going to disrupt your brain waves and make it harder to get you in the stages of sleep where you're clearing out your brain. To be in a good mental state when you fall asleep. So, if any of you have read the Apostle Paul's work in the Bible, one of the things that he has said, one of the famous quotes from him is, "Do not let the sun go down in your anger." And he was the first cognitive psychologist we have on record. And he didn't know why he knew, because they didn't have the brain science back then, but he knew that going to sleep angry or in a crummy state is really bad for the brain and for your state in general. And so it's to solve those things, to get in that state, and one of the easiest things to do for that is to exercise gratitude, to forgive people, to let stuff go. So when you go to sleep, you're in a good state, you're in a good mental state. And then you can use that time for quality sleep. Because when you're in a crummy state, your brain ruminates on that crummy stuff. And what most people don't realize, and what they found in recent years, is brain science has taught us that it's really the last 90 minutes. Some people it's an hour, other people it's 90 minutes of the day before you go to sleep, that your brain is going to rehearse over 15 times while you're asleep. It's going to rehearse the rest of the day, go back over that and repeat it twice. So that last part of the day is huge to get your state right. So when you go to sleep, your brain is ruminating the good stuff 15 times. And then if it's doing that, you're going to wake up in a better state than you went to sleep in, instead of a crummier state, and your sleep is going to be higher quality.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What about reading right before you go to sleep?
It's great. If it's pages.
Not a Kindle.
Not a Kindle, yeah. Kindle's done a great job of making it look like a page. And Kindle's better than reading it on a web page on a computer. So it's a step in the right direction. But they found, they don't know why, but they found you put a Kindle that looks like a piece of paper and a book next to each other, the eyes do different things. The big problem with the computer is, you've got ads on the side that are flashing, you've got all these distractions that train your brain to be going this way and that way and make ADD worse and all that. A Kindle doesn't have that, which is a huge step in the right direction. But it's still not natural, and they're still trying to figure out why is this? Because it doesn't even have some of the EMFs and all of the blue light that a computer does, but it still isn't as good. And so you got to get back to paper, to real books, and back to paper. And that's a good thing. It's actually therapeutic to read on paper. So good question. And then to read something that is going to put you in a good state. EMFs is the last thing, one of the major things. They're just coming out with a lot of research on this, so it's not even all out yet. But EMFs meaning, your phone by your head when you're sleeping is not a good thing, unless you put it in airplane mode. The router in the next room, super powerful radio waves. It's not necessarily a good thing. These are all unconsciously disrupting all the cells in your body, and especially the brain state. Go ahead. So, number 4 is learning and brain games. Learning new stuff that you're not good at. So you all have fields of expertise, and everybody in this room is really good at something. In fact, better than everybody else in this room at something. You're an expert at that thing. That's your thing. It's when you're in your zone. And learning new things in that field is good for your brain. But learning new things outside of that field is great for your brain. Because that's making new neural networks that are you're beating down the path, and you're creating a new nerve network path. And that's why I got my pilot's license, because I wanted to learn something completely different from exercise science, how to fly an airplane. And there's big textbooks I had to study, and there's the FAA test I had to take, and all this stuff. And it was hard. And that's the key, is when you're learning something new, something completely outside your field, maybe it could be another language, unless you already know 3. And then it's easier to learn that for. It gets easier with every language. So, but it's the new stuff. When you get to the point where it's frustrating and it's hard, same thing with brain games. like brainhq.com is a great site for that. And when you're learning these brain games and it starts to get hard, most people are like, oh, this is too hard, I'm going to start a new game. And then it starts out easy and it progresses in levels and they get to the point, oh, this is getting hard again, let me try this new one over here. It's sticking with that one when it's hard and remembering that when it gets hard and it gets really frustrating, that's when your brain is getting the most out of it. So to hang in there and stick to it in brain games, in learning new things, and strive to get to the point where it does get hard and frustrating. And it's also about taking a new route to work that you've never taken before. Giving yourself an extra 5-10 minutes to get lost. That's frustrating, right? Or going to a new store that you grocery shop instead of sticking to the store you always go to. Now you got to find new stuff, and it feels frustrating. And even when I say these things, people are thinking in their mind, oh man, I hate to do that. That's the stuff you should be doing if you want to focus on training your brain and making your brain stronger and better. Not just for that, but also to make your brain better at neuroplasticity, changing itself. Because when you do this frustrating hard stuff, and the more you do it, the better your brain gets at it. And then when you pick up a new frustrating hard thing, it's not so frustrating and hard anymore. Because now it's easier to make those new neural networks that you haven't made yet. Go ahead. Relationships, huge. Most people don't realize this point. They've heard all the other points. But the research has shown us this is in the top 5 as well. It's about getting close relationships and fostering the close relationships that you have and working at it. Everybody who's married knows it's work, and it should be, and it's great for the brain. So when you feel like, oh, this is so much work, remember, yay, this is great for my brain. So it's a good thing that it's a lot of work. And people should have, it's a range, but people should have 2 to 5 close friends that you can share your soul with, besties, besides your family or your spouse. So people outside that. 10 to 20 medium friends that you can call up and they come help you move. That's a good friend. 200-ish acquaintances, so people, networking with people that you know, that you can call by first name. And I don't mention Facebook on here because those are fake friends. They don't count. But it's good, you know, it's still socialization, keeping up with people and stuff like that, but it's not connecting. This is face-to-face stuff. The Facebook and the social media is taking us away from the face-to-face stuff with the energy that we have between each other when we're in each other's presence. That's huge. That's brain training. Facebook, Twitter, all the social media things where we think we're connecting with people. It's good to keep up with people with their fake lives, right? Because we always put the best stuff on there. We don't put the real stuff on there. But at least we know where they are and where they're going on vacation, and that's an interesting thing. It's just interesting. It's good to have that just for interest, but it's not doing anything for us as far as relationships go. And then to foster growth and intimacy with all of these people and work at it every day. It should feel like work, but work isn't always a bad thing. Work can be a good thing, and then if we remember, oh, this is getting harder, oh, this is work, that it's really good for the brain, then it's not so bad. Go ahead. So then, more information. We need to do silver sneakers classes at Amsterdam now because our protocols are so safe. The elderly population loves it, and they come to us. And it's really nice to be able to provide that because with traditional training, they don't want to do that because it's dangerous. They get hurt, and heavy weights, ballistic reps. They know it's going to be, they've either been hurt or they don't want to get hurt and they're afraid of it. Well, now there's an alternative. There's action. If you want more info on brain science, email me. The cards have made it all the way around yet. I don't know. Good. And then also, if you want something I just came out with, and we're just finishing the beta phase now, it's a brain type test. So if you go to the link I can send you, begeandpeege.com is the website, and you go to that, click the brain type test, go to that. It'll tell you your brain type, and it'll give you specific exercise and health recommendations based on your unique brain type, which is kind of cool. That's one of my latest developments based on this research I've been doing. Go ahead. That's what the web page looks like. xgym.com is my gym, but this is my personal blog. It's my lovely wife, and so there's a button down here. Take the test. Just click to that. Go ahead. And then you'll also notice in this last slide here that my sheet over here that talks about the 5 things to reverse dementia is real similar to the 5 things to get healthy, fit, and younger, because it's healthy living. And the same top 5 have a lot of things in common. So over here we talked about oxygen, nutrition, quality sleep, learning and games, relationships. Here we talk about exercise, oxygen, nutrition, and water. Water is huge too. It's very important, including I have it over here too, but it's emphasized over here with exercise because it's even more so important, just because you're building muscle and muscles are 75% water. Everyone else says, oh, get your protein, which is important too, because muscles are 25% protein, but it's 75% water, so that's even more important. Quality sleep for recovery and exercise, but also general health, because this is for general health too, not just fitness. Brain training. I've come up with brain training exercises that people can do. And part of that brain test gives people the result sheet, gives people 6 brain training exercises specific to their brain type, which is really useful. And it's ways of rewiring their brain so you think and act differently. And so then fitness and health is easier to achieve. Instead of fighting against your brain and fighting all those things and trying to make it, it's just too hard that way. And then relationships, same thing. It's on the top 5 for general health and fitness as well, that relationship thing. So it's really bad to be the introvert that stays home all day, or the hermit up on the mountain. Bad for the brain, bad for your health. We're pack animals. We're meant to have good, close relationships and have our posse, have our support, and to work at it. And for health and fitness, that's so huge. So that's all I got, and I'd love to answer questions if you have any. And again, feel free to contact me. And I would love it if what you've learned today, if you pass it on. Made a little video too, so I can make it a YouTube. If you want to, if you can think of somebody else that might benefit from this message, I can send you that YouTube link in a week or so when I have it up. And thanks for having me.
Where's your gym at?
So there's 2 locations. Kirkland is right on the border of Bellevue and Kirkland. And then West Seattle is on the west side, or the east side of the hill. So it's not around the other side where Beege is. It's closer than that. So right when you get off the West Seattle Bridge, just take a right and it's pretty close down there on the left. Between the bridge and Salties.
Yeah.
And then the one here on the east side is at the South Kirkland Park and Ride. So it's just right at 405, first exit out 520, and boom, it's right there. Yeah, it's like 10 minutes from here. Yeah. And we're trying to get more silver sneakers, which are 65 and over, because the silver sneakers crowd actually gets to come to Xgym for free for our group training, because the silver sneakers program pays for it. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get places like this to load up a bus and come on out and have a silver sneakers class. So because we just started that process, and it's pretty exciting because we really want to emphasize that, because there's, like I said earlier, there's that option now for the elderly population.
I should get your program, because we load up our bus and take them to the ARP exercise classes that they do.
Great, that's great too. Keep doing that. The more exercise you can get, the better. So the more times you can load up the bus and take them somewhere to get exercise, even if it's just a power walk in the mall on a rainy day, that's what I'm telling all these places to do. Just get them out every day if you can, and keep that exercise bus out there, because like you saw, it's number 1, oxygen to the brain. Getting them breathing, getting them moving. I'm working on a little instructional video right now where people who are stuck in their chairs can work up over time to get out of that chair, no matter what the age, and get to the point where they're standing up again. Because it doesn't have to happen that way. And it's a pretty easy progression. The first progression, the first stage, is just leaning forward and pushing the feet down into the floor. Time and attention, just as long as they possibly can. After about 15, 20 seconds, the quads start to burn. And then we start going toes and then heel. Toes, heel, back and forth, toes and heel. Because that moves it down the quad, then back up the quad, into the glutes. And you're just exercising those muscles until they just reach their own tolerance level. And then they stop, and that's it for the day. And then the next day, you're either able to go another 2 seconds longer. And they keep progressing with that. And then they start to feel lighter in their chair. And then they put their hands on the handles here. And now they're pushing down with their hands. They're still not lifting up out of the chair yet, but they're pushing down, and they're leaning forward and back, and they're leaning side to try to get all the muscle fibers that are involved. And then pretty soon they're able, because of their upper body strength and their quad strength and their glute strength, because of these isometrics, now they're able to lift up a little bit, and now they can get just a little piece of air in there. And then that's it for the day. And then they keep progressing this way until pretty soon they're up like this. And now we're focusing on, balance, and still the hands are still there, and then we're focusing on lighter hands and seeing how light those hands. And then pretty soon they get air between the hands just for a second, and then they sit down and they're done for the day. And then it keeps progressing until they're doing this, and then eventually they're doing reps with hand assisted, and then eventually they're doing reps without hand. And this can happen at any age. And it's so exciting to be able to see this with people, that they're just turning their life around. And with the other stuff, nutrition and brain gain, they're reversing the aging process. They're getting chronologically younger because they're feeling that way. And that's all that really matters. It's our own perception is what matters. It's not actually time that matters. It's how we feel, how old we feel. That's what matters. And that's how old we really are.
Peege, you said in number 4 in learning in games, talked about learning something different, taking a different route.
Yeah.
And it can get tough, difficult, but it can also get stressful.
Yeah.
And could that lead to high blood pressure? What are your thoughts on that? I see people get really frustrated and they kind of give up.
Yes.
Because it's always happening.
Right. And it shouldn't be something that would cause stress. It should be something fun. That's why I pick things outside my field that are fun. When I was growing up, my dad was a private pilot, and we'd fly around a lot, and I had really good memories of that. And he's, by the way, he's still alive. He's doing great. He's in his 80s, super healthy, because he's doing this stuff. And so that's why I picked that, because I knew it would be fun. I knew I'd enjoy it. And so that was very important, because I knew it wouldn't get to that point where it would be really frustrating and all that.
Or close to something that used to be able to do now you can't, so that would get them frustrated. So pick something to do.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
I started playing harmonica recently. I've been into music for a long time, and when you're a kid, you always get a harmonica, right? It's
Exactly.
something. Everyone has one in their wardrobe somewhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, interestingly, I started playing a few sea shanties, and I said, okay, I'll also get a few books. So I ordered a few books from the library. One of them happens to be cardio, harmonica cardio.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, when you're doing harmonica, it's a lot like exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when I'm playing, and I'm pretty reasonably fit, and I'm out of breath.
Mm-hmm.
So I just by chance, I ordered a few books. I have it in my car, in fact.
Yeah.
It's called Harmonica Cardio. So there's a way to do music and exercise.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And when you're playing harmonica, you're doing forced exhalation, which does super infuse the blood. And you're using muscles in your body, and it's an active kind of thing. So that would definitely qualify.
Yeah.
So I work in the memory care, we only do memory care, and we have kind of a exercise class with our residents that what we deem are able to actually do. And I'd just be interested if you would like go out to communities or come out to our community and kind of assess what it is that we're doing and give us sort of tips on making it better. Because it is one thing when families come in and they say, I want my mom to be more active.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it's maybe the lack of education of knowing like what specifically we could be doing.
Yeah.
Like, is that something we'd be interested in doing and like on a, like showing us more ropes that how to do it?
Absolutely, yes. I am hired by certain organizations to come out and do things like that. So that's something I do.
You speak to 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. What's your recommendation for those people that say, I just don't need more than 3 hours of sleep, or I can't stay asleep longer than 3 hours?
If they do those things on the list, they probably will. They could be in that 5% that really doesn't need that sleep, but that's just 5%, so or less. So if they're not sleeping well or they're not staying asleep, it's probably because one of those things on that sleep list is messing with their sleep. Yeah. Or one or more. Usually a lot of them are messing with it. A lot of people do all of those things opposite. Yeah. Great. All right, thanks for having me.